So there is a lot going on in the world of Black women. In this video, I want to cover a few topics that mean something to me. Many of you know that I only talk about things and people that I feel connected to. I'm going to start with Cooking with Kya. Yes, I feel connected to Cooking with Kya. Cooking with Kya, I am old enough to be Kya's mom. Okay, Kya is 23. So for anyone coming on here who's going to accuse me of being a hater, I am not a hater. Again, Kya is old enough to be my daughter, as I will be 43. But I want to talk about what's been going on with her and give you my insight. And really quickly, for my day ones and for those who are regular viewers, remember my African fan? I will be using this because it's 90 something degrees outside. And probably the second half of the video, I'll turn my air conditioner on to kind of compare the sound difference. But anyway, Cooking with Kya. So here's the part that I want to talk about. I want to talk about the contradiction that exists in her branding. She built a following pretty recently, as in 2024 is when she blew up. And she blew up for making cooking videos. And I think the real reason why she blew up is the Cooking with Kya chant that she matched with a twerk dance. So, as many people have said, from a marketing perspective, this was a great idea, right? It made her popular. It made people remember her. She then started getting a lot of men following her as a result. I think probably less about her cooking, more about her twerking. And essentially what she sells the internet is this persona of being a young, traditional minded woman. However, here's the problem. And again, I am old enough to be Kya's mom. Kya is old enough to be my daughter. With love. The problem is the blatant contradiction in her brand. Is because the reality is that women, even young women who are really traditional, don't twerk online for thousands of men. They don't do that. That's the truth. You can twerk for your man, your husband, or who, in the privacy of your home as a traditional woman. But again, if Kya was really traditional, which is kind of what she is selling, that twerk at the end of her chant would not be there. So I figured out early, I realized pretty early when she blew up, it didn't seem like a solid brand, because it's like there's a blatant contradiction there. And this is no offense to Kya, because Kya is young, she's beautiful, very attractive, has a nice physique, and she's living her life, and I don't personally have an expectation for her to be extremely traditional, but her followers do. And we know that men, when your followers are mostly men, they have an expectation for you to uphold your image. And I know most men like loyalty, consistency. So if things become inconsistent, it throws them off, because it's like, well, who are you? Essentially, Kya was caught, and I use the word caught because I don't know that she was really trying to hide it, but she was filmed on the dance floor. This is at the Streamer University, filmed on the dance floor where she was twerking, and apparently it was said that several men were touching her while she was twerking, and it didn't seem as though she had a problem with it. And this comes out And, there was a whole thing about the guy apologizing. She made him publicly apologize, but apparently it was more than one guy. The bottom line is this. Kya has to come to terms with the fact that she's actually not a traditional young woman, right? The problem is actually less about Kya twerking on the dance floor and more about the conflicting brand that she has, the online persona that she's created. So, one of the things that I know Kya would say to aggravate women is, I can take your man. I'm going to make him this meal and I'm going to take your man. The truth, with love, the truth is that Kya cannot keep her own man, because her man, or her former man, Zabron, who is the one that found out about her twerking on the dance floor and men touching her, Zabron apparently broke up with her, or, just blatantly stated that they're over with. And so again, therein lies the contradiction of telling the internet, telling the world, I can take your man, and not being able to keep your own man. And again, this is not necessarily to blame Kya, the young lady, but it's the branding, the marketing, how she positioned herself. And if you follow the Curated Legacy podcast, stay tuned, because I'm going to be talking more about this very topic, how you brand and market yourself, the consistency that you need to have over a period of time. Not, the internet kind of sensationalizes people, and, people get all excited and they're the next best, hottest thing. And then there's a downfall that comes shortly after, because the initial foundation was not rooted in anything of substance. And so that is what we are seeing with Kya. It is the contradiction of it all. The fact that a lot of men that supported her before, and they were team Kya, and, and there was all these memes and jokes about, their women being jealous and, all this. And many of these men, some of them no longer support Kya, because they're like, well, wait a minute. Are you a traditional woman and are you modern? Now, whole time Kya was selling a fantasy, because clearly if she's cooking a home cooked meal and then twerking online and millions, of men are looking at this, that is an obvious statement that she is actually not the traditional woman that she is sort of marketing or branding herself to be. So that was actually pretty blatant. But we know men are visual. We know men often, get sort of mesmerized by the appearance of it all. And I think that she could have kept it going, actually, as long as, nothing scandalous happened. I think it could have worked for maybe a little bit longer, not forever, but for maybe a little bit longer. But the problem is that Kya is a modern woman. And again, this is not necessarily bad. She's young, but I would not, if Kya was my daughter, I would not encourage the twerk and the videos. I am a creator myself, although much older than Kya. I'm married and very much conscious, even though people have accused me of thirst trapping when I post pictures, but very much conscious and aware of my image and the fact of having a larger male following. Those things, you can essentially, what I'm saying here is, you could tell when someone is a little bit more traditional leaning and when they're not. And it's not about, you could tell this. You don't need people to cook or to perform tradition. You need people to be. And that is really a lot of social media and YouTube is about. It's less about what you're doing and more about who you're being. And that is where the solid foundation comes in. That is what is sustainable. Are you going to get a massive following overnight from being something? Probably not. It's going to take time. But you can get that from doing something, which is twerking, which is what Kya got. She got the massive following almost overnight. But as we see with so many celebrities, so many artists, so many, singers, social media influencers, there's a quick fall. The fall is very, very, very quick. And again, this is not to say that Kya can, I believe, recover from this. I think that there's possibility of her to move forward, but she is going to have to figure out who she is and who she wants to be online. More so, who she wants to be in her personal life, and then who she's going to be online. How does the personal get transferred over to the online space? Because that is what almost always happens, is that we want to believe that our worlds are so separate. Well, this is what I do offline. This is what I do online. And then those worlds collide. And then we have to answer to, well, you sold me this, but then you're doing this. So really, Kya is almost essentially being who she is. I mean, there's nothing wrong with dancing on the dance floor, but every woman knows that if you dance on the dance floor, and if there's guys if you dance on the dance floor and you bend over and you add a twerk to that, in a lot of cases, the guys are going to come. And Kya, as it has been stated, was in a relationship with Zabron, who was in the hotel, apparently next door. And the problem is that, Kya, I'm sure, being aware of what her twerking was gonna, and this is in no way to excuse anybody who touched her inappropriately or without consent, but I think what has been said is that it sounded like there was consent on her part, or at least not a denial of whatever was going on. And therefore, Zabron was very hurt. And he said some things on social media. Kya then came out and said some things. And we see her crying. That was sort of the last big thing, is her crying about the entire situation. Just in terms of now the backlash that she's getting from men who previously supported her.